Let's begin by talking about expectations. A new government, clearly the continuation of the old government. But what are your expectations this time? Any different this time? You think the reforms will keep on continuing from here?
So stability is important, and that helps a lot. We've seen a number of positives over the past few years, and the positive is really around focus on long-term growth. It's something that we've commented on after every budget as well, as compared to focus on SOPs and incentives, because long-term growth is a greater multiplier. So that's the first thing we would hope it continues, especially given coalition politics now. The second that we hope is around 4 specific areas. First is Make in India for the world. And for that, we need to have an even lower cost of manufacturing in India. We need to have a much higher quality of products, and India should be known as a high quality of products country. And there's been a lot of work done on ease of doing business. That needs to continue going forward. The second set of areas is around farm prosperity and ensuring that we can create a value chain that's a seamless and efficient one where you reduce wastage significantly, have a much fresher produce for consumers, increase farm productivity, because that way we can do more with less. The third area is around women-led development. That's an important area for our country, to have more women in manufacturing, more in the labor force, and really focus on equality. And the fourth area is around sustainability, sustainable infrastructure for cities, water positivity across the country, and really playing a much bigger role in creating a green economy, which will be helpful from a climate change standpoint. So these are the 4 main areas that we look at: manufacturing or Make in India for the world, farm-led prosperity, women-led development, and sustainability.
But this time government is different from 2014 and 19, that this time it's a coalition government. Earlier were also, but this time it has been made with partners. Do you think it's going to somehow put pressure on the government, delay decision making? Anything you think on that terms?
We feel fairly optimistic at this point that given the ideologies that the parties have and the fact that the government has gone through the last 10 years, in fact, they will be on a solid track and really can help drive decision making and continue on the path that they've been on.
Do you expect bolder reforms now to come? Because from last many months we can see that because the elections were coming, maybe the bolder reforms were put on back burner. Now I think that bolder reforms can come.
Again, we think that a lot has been done, so we are on a positive track. And we could see that positive track continuing. Yes, there can be a greater transformation agenda, and we are likely to see that in a few areas, and that's something that we look forward to.
And what are the immediate areas or problems you need to be addressed? What are the immediate steps you think will be taken by the government? 100-day agendas are being prepared by the ministries, but what are the immediate steps you expect?
So as FICCI, we have outlined a set of things that we would request the government to look at. Including for every ministry, we've got a 100-day agenda or items that we would request for inclusion on the 100-day agenda, as well as a medium-term program. So it's a very, very detailed set of, in fact, greater than 100 pages to really outline what are the different things that industry would look at. But if I were to summarize that, they really come back into the 4 key areas that I mentioned around manufacturing, women-led development, farm prosperity, sustainability. That's really the focus area that we have as an industry.
And the budget is just around the corner, as we expect within a month or maybe a little delayed. Budget will be there. Last time it was clearly an interim budget, so not many decisions could be taken. This time we expect, again, what are your big hopes, the road ahead with the budget?
Our hopes are that what we've seen over the last few budget continues, which is the focus on long-term growth, the focus on investments that have a greater multiplier as compared to incentives and SOPs, and that's going to set up the economy well for the longer term. Recognize that India is very well positioned right now. India will add more GDP to the world than will the European Union in the next 6 years. And if we continue on track, India will likely be the largest contributor to the world GDP by 2028. So we are on a path that is actually a very good path. It's about staying the course, it's about implementing, continuing to focus on the long term, but more importantly, driving an inclusive growth agenda. That's one that I think is more important, and I'd look at a greater focus there. We've seen some actions today already that really point towards that, and that's a positive step forward.
And whenever elections come, definitely this time also, jobs was a big issue. And what are the suggestions from the side of India Inc., from FICCI, that more and more jobs are created as it is definitely needed by a country of our size?
CapEx will lead to jobs. So government CapEx has been fairly strong for the last 2 or 3 years. Private CapEx needs to step up and get stronger. And that will help manufacturing to grow significantly. To meet our FICCI Bharat goals, manufacturing has to increase 16 times in the next 23 years. That will automatically create jobs. But for that, we need to continue on this path of a longer-term investment horizon.
And coming to your sector, auto sector, well, one particular agenda is tax issues on the hybrid or electric car. Well, as we understand, government is not in favor of giving tax cuts on hybrid cars as demanded by certain auto players. What is your assessment? What is your thinking? Hybrid tax or EVs? Who should get tax breaks? Who are good for the long term of the country? And would you also come with hybrid cars in case there is a case for that?
So we are ready with hybrids if we need to have hybrids. So if the consumer wants hybrids, we will have them. To answer your question, if I look at a policy standpoint first, incentives should always be there for the short term to achieve a specific objective. You cannot continue with incentives forever because that's not the government's role to do that. Governments across the world for over 20 years generally have not provided incentives for hybrids because hybrid essentially has two technologies in the car. It has the ICE technology or the ICE powertrain and the electric powertrain. So it's not efficient in that sense. It's a stopgap to get to an efficient solution which is electric long term. And you see countries like Norway at 90% plus electric already. You see some countries potentially struggling to get past 20%, 30% because of the ecosystem around it. But those are short-term problems. Electric is a better solution overall for the economy because that will result in a much lower fuel import bill, that will result in much lower emissions. Emissions for hybrid are the same as for ICE. So it's really not that dramatically different, and therefore incentives should always focus on what's going to create a better outcome in a specific time frame. Hybrids as an option for consumers is something that OEMs are always open to doing, and that's something that we're open to doing if that's what the consumer wants. But we would not ask for incentives for hybrids.
And about the auto sector again, and June has started, so what are your expectations for the rest of the year? Sales are doing well so far, but again, would you be able to match the last year's growth? It was a higher base effect, or will that come into effect because the higher base impact will be there?
So we have told our investors that we have signed up for a mid to high teens growth for our set of products in the auto industry, for SUVs in particular, that is. And we are on track at this point in time.
Okay. Two more small things as far as the budget is coming now. So from your side, the capex, as far as India is concerned, fiscal prudence is concerned, do you think all these mathematics is there and right for India to spend? And we expect more and more spending will happen on welfare schemes. What are your expectations when it comes to spending of money?
Our expectations would be, as any company would look at if they have to spend money, or any country would look at, what is a multiplier effect from every rupee that is spent? And that typically is in capex, in longer term investments. Yes, there are sometimes funds required for immediate needs, and those needs will be there in the economy. So it's a balance. And the question is, what is the right balance? Over the last few years, we've seen a balance that is essentially one that portrays more of long-term investments. And that's been a positive for the economy as we're seeing now. And that's something that we hope continues.
Well, thank you, Mr. Shah, for talking to ET Now at this moment and giving your suggestions to us. Thank you once again.
Pleasure. Thank you.